My name is Brenda Kukuk. I am the Senior Coordination Officer for the convention, and nice to see a lot of familiar names on the list today, and some new ones. I have joined the Secretariat as of February this year. I'm joined today by many of my colleagues in the Secretariat, and we'll be rotating through speakers. And I just, as we get started, just like to note that last week marked the 8-year anniversary of the entry into force of our convention, and we're very proud of what the convention has achieved so far. And we're also very much looking forward to further advancement of our convention at COP-6. So today, your host for the WebEx is Sharaful Islam. Sharaful, do you want to maybe just put your camera on? So if you're in need of any technical support, please indicate so in a direct chat, and he will help you. Okay?
Hi.
Thank you, Sharaful. So now can we just move to the first slide? I just want to highlight that we have topics that are divided between 2 days. They are not according to their order in the provisional agenda. This briefing has been set up in a way to keep the flow of the briefing smooth. And today's focus is on the provisional agenda, the schedule and organization matters, followed by Mercury supply sources and trade, followed by Mercury added products and manufacturing processes, followed by waste, national reporting, implementation and compliance committee, followed by the rules of procedure and financial rules for the COP. Okay, so that's today's briefing. And tomorrow's focus is listed here. I won't read them out, just take note that these 2 sessions, today and tomorrow, are meant to be watched together. They will include some of the same overarching content, but the information about the documents under the specific agenda items is different. So this session will be recorded, and shortly after tomorrow's session, we will upload both days of presentations for availability and in follow-up. So just in terms of housekeeping, we will open the floor for a brief round of questions after every set of documents. And your questions can be put in the chat, and they can be put in the chat to everyone. We will respond to some of the questions orally and the remaining in writing as we have limited time, but we appreciate all questions that come forward. And if you need any technical assistance, please put your message in the chat box also, but you can send that directly to the host, Sharaful, and that he will help you through, okay? So finally, just to make our future webinars even better, we invite you to complete a short survey that will be sent around following this session. Okay, so now I'd just like to get started. You'll see here that we have a calendar slide for COP-6, and it's a very busy time as we head into COP-6 that will take place in Geneva from the 3rd to the 7th of November. It will be presided over by Chile, Mr. Osvaldo Alvarez Perez. And I just want to highlight a few dates that are on this table, and some of them we'll come back to over the course of the presentation. So registration for COP-6 is open, and the deadline for registration for sponsored participants is the 5th of September. So if you are still looking to be a sponsored participant, you have a small amount of time remaining for this. And for other participants, the deadline is the 24th of October. However, we do encourage you to register as early as possible. This really facilitates our planning for the meeting. As you can see over the period of September, October, our regional preparatory meetings will be starting from next week. We are kicking off in Chile for the GRULAC region on the 3rd or 4th of September, followed by the Eastern European states in Geneva from the 16th to the 17th of September, followed by Asia Pacific from the 23rd to the 24th of September in Bangkok, and finally for Africa from the 7th to the 9th of October. You will notice a change of venue. We apologize for any inconvenience for this, but at the last minute, our meeting venue has been changed to our UNEP headquarters in Nairobi. We're confident it's a good venue, and we apologize, as I said, for any inconvenience that might have caused. There are a number of other dates listed in this slide, and the slide's a reference point, of course, but we will be coming back to them throughout the presentation. So just on to the next slide, please. Okay, so here you will see the tentative schedule of work, and this will be included in an information document 4. We just want to highlight a few things about the COP-6 schedule, as it's designed for allowing maximum time for plenary to consider it, deliberate and adopt items where there will be interpretation into the 6 UN official languages. It'll take into account the potential time required to meet in smaller groups on some key agenda items, where there'll be, of course, no interpretation and it will be in English only. We will work to ensure there's no more than one group that works alongside plenary, or only 2 groups to work concurrently once plenary is adjourned. And we will ensure this schedule also will help us ensure that draft decisions are finalized in time for the program of work and budget group to consider them before the adoption of the budget on Friday. Okay, next slide, please. So here you can see the expanded schedule of work, which also includes the Sunday meetings, meeting of the Bureau, the regional meetings, and we will have more information on events and knowledge labs during the COP later in the presentation. So registration on site opens at 10 a.m. on Sunday, November 2nd. There's a number of important details asterisked at the bottom. The working hours to support good working conditions are that all night sessions are expected, hopefully to end by 10 p.m. And there is a list of possible contact and other groups that may be established during COP6. They are tentatively identified for program of work and budget, technical matters for agenda item 4B, and Mercury supply sources and trade for agenda item 4A. Other groups may also be established as per the agenda and as required, of course, as the meeting flows. Just moving now to documents. There's a link here to our meeting documents page, and I hope you all get familiar with it. We're very pleased that many the COP working documents are already available, and some in languages, other in advanced English. The budget-related documents have been available since the 5th of August on our website. And according to our rules of procedure, of course, the COP6 documents must be available on the website 6 weeks in advance, which is the 22nd of September. So the Secretariat, of course, we have been making every effort possible to make these documents available earlier. Most now are available for regional meetings, starting with GRULAC next week, of course. Just moving now to the agenda. We just want to post what this is, the provisional agenda. It is already available in languages on the convention website. Information document 3 will provide annotations to the provisional agenda, and this will be made available to you in due course. But this briefing will not present topics in any order if they are presented here in the provisional agenda. As I mentioned earlier, the presentations will be set up in a way that the agenda items flow naturally for us in terms of the speaker's competence here within our Secretariat. So this concludes the introduction of the meeting documents and early information on how the meeting will flow. From here, I'd just like to call on my colleague Lara to move us into agenda items. So this will start with the agenda item related to organizational matters. So over to you, Lara.
Thank you, Brenda. My name is Lara Ognebene. I am the legal officer with the Secretariat of the Convention. So continuing to the next agenda item on the provisional agenda for COP6, under item 2C, organizational matters on election of officers. COP6 is expected to elect the COP7 Bureau. This is 10 members. Nominations from each of the 5 UN regions are expected to be submitted to the Secretariat no later than the second day of the COP. To note that for the purposes of regional rotation of the president for COP6, the president is expected to be elected from among the Western European and others group. COP6 is also expected to elect new members to serve on the Implementation and Compliance Committee to replace those members whose period of office is about to expire. Again, nominations from each UN regional group are to be submitted to the Secretariat no later than the second day of the COP. And finally, for the CIP Governing Board, the COP-6 is to confirm, based on the nominations received from the regional groups, 10 members of the Governing Board. And again, as in previous bodies, no member is to serve on the board for more than 2 consecutive terms. Moving on to the next slide, on agenda item 2D, on credentials. As per usual practice, credentials for the head of delegation, alternate representatives, and advisors are to be submitted to the Secretariat and issued either by the head of state or government or by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Sample credentials are available in all UN languages on the COP-6 webpage. You see the link here in the slide. Original credentials must be submitted no later than 24 hours after the opening of the meeting. You can submit original credentials by mail to the address of the Secretariat. You see the address here in the slide. If you don't submit them by email before the meeting, you can hand over the original credentials at the registration desk at the venue in Geneva when you register for COP-6. The Secretariat invites you to submit electronic copies of credentials in advance of the meeting so that we can check and let you know if there's any issue with the credentials in advance of the meeting. The credential report is expected to be adopted on Thursday in plenary. Next slide. But before we go to next slide, let me check if there's any question at the moment. I don't see any. I will then move to the next agenda item, 4A, on mercury supply sources and trade. So as a background information to understand the content of the documents that are relevant to this agenda item, Article 3 of the Convention addresses sources of supply and trade in mercury, lays down measures on primary mercury mining, identification of stocks, excess mercury from the decommissioning of chloroalkali plants, as well as on mercury export and import. And in particular, Article 3 requires parties to take measures to control trade of mercury, elemental mercury, with other parties and non-parties. COP-5 adopted a decision on this matter, Decision 5/2, where inter alia, among other things, the Secretariat was requested to compile for consideration at COP-6 information submitted by parties on experiences and challenges faced in implementing Article 3, as well as information on activities undertaken in relation to the Bali Declaration on combating illegal trade in mercury. COP-5 also requested the Secretariat to draft an update to the existing guidance on stocks adopted by COP-1 and to develop guidance to assist parties in identifying, managing, and reducing mercury trade from primary mercury mining. In addition, COP-5 also adopted a decision, MC5/3, requesting the Secretariat to initiate a study on supply, production, trade, and use of mercury compounds. So I'll come back to these various items in the next few slides. So next slide, please. So the main working document under this agenda item is document 6/5, titled Implementation of Decision 5/2 on Mercury Supply Sources and Trade. The document provides information on the implementation of the decision, MC5/2, on mercury supply sources and trade, provides information on the experiences and challenges faced in implementing Article 3 and on activities undertaken under the Bali Declaration. It also presents information that is relevant to this matter from the second short national reports that were submitted by parties pursuant to Article 21, as well as relevant information or work carried out by the Implementation and Compliance Committee, which reviewed national reports, questions related to mercury supply sources and trade during its last meeting in February. Just a note that the Bali Declaration is a non-binding political declaration that was launched by Indonesia at the margins of COP 4.2 in Bali in 2022, and it received expressions of support from regional groups and delegations. The document contains also annexes, Annex 2 on updates to the guidance on stocks and sources, and Annex 3 on updates to the guidance on the use of forms on import and export of mercury. So in the next slide, 2 slides, I will go more in detail, explaining what's in Annex 2 first. So in response to Decision MC 5/2, the Secretariat has developed a draft supplemental guidance on the identification of the individual stocks and sources of mercury to include types of action that could be taken to fulfill the continuing obligation to endeavor to identify stocks and sources. So the Secretariat reviewed data on measures reported under the relevant question in the reporting format on identification of stocks. The Secretariat also conducted a survey issued to parties who responded yes to the question, say they did endeavor to identify stocks and sources of mercury, to solicit more information on the types of action taken, and then circulated a draft of the supplemental guidance for comment. To note in this respect that the Implementation and Compliance Committee noted in its last meeting in February that parties who solely rely on the MIA results may need to consider more up-to-date sources of information when it comes to identifying stocks and sources, as this has been recognized by the COP as an ongoing effort that needs to be therefore updated and cannot be only, and the MIAs that conducted years ago cannot be the sole source of information for this continuing obligation. Moving on to the next annex, which is still part of the same document 6/5, on updates to the guidance on the use of forms on import and export of mercury. In response to the same COP5 decisions 5/2, the Secretariat conducted a scoping of possible guidance to assist parties in identifying, managing, and reducing mercury trade from primary mercury mining. To note that the existing trade forms and guidance, which has been adopted by the COP, already require exporting parties to indicate on the trade consent form if mercury is from primary mercury mining, and it also require importing parties to indicate on the trade consent form whether the purpose of the import is for a use allowed to a party under the convention. So given that the Secretariat drafted an update to the guidance on the trade consent forms to clarify the requirements for exporting parties to identify whether the mercury is from primary mercury mining. And this is considering also activities they may be regarded as illegal or informal by the party. The draft update was posted on the convention's website for review, and it's now available in as part of this document in the Annex 3 to the document. Moving on. Now, there is one information document I would like to focus on that relates to, that supports, complements the information in the main working document under this agenda item, which is in 6, that includes, provides a summary of information submitted by parties in response to Decision 5/2, which invited parties to submit information on experiences and challenges faced in the implementation of Article 3 and activities under the Bali Declaration. You will see a compilation of these responses. You can see an actual list of the 8 parties who submitted information with the respective information on our website. To note that the Implementation Compliance Committee expressed concern regarding the issue of illicit trafficking, illegal trade, and smuggling of mercury raised by some parties, not only through this mechanism of submitting a submission in response to decision MC5/2, but also in their national reports, and decided to re-examine this issue at its next meeting. Next slide. So the next few slides outline the suggested action for the COP to consider. So the draft decision includes several points. First of all, the COP may wish to adopt the update to the guidance on stock, and also to adopt the updates to the guidance on the use of forms on import and export of mercury, set out in the Annex 2 to the document. Invite parties that reported on experiences and challenges faced in the implementation of Article 3 to specifically, and other parties to specifically provide information on the paragraph 3 of Article 3, which is on primary mercury mining, so to provide more information on challenges and experiences related to primary mercury mining. And this is a request that has been included in the draft decision on the basis of a recommendation of the ICC. Next slide, please. Then to encourage parties to continue to share information with the Secretariat about experiences in preventing and combating illegal trade of mercury and the use of form. Request the Secretariat to develop case studies on best practices in preventing and combating the illegal trafficking, illegal trade, or smuggling of mercury for consideration by COP-7. And then there are a couple of requests specifically to ICC, so the Implementation Compliance Committee, to assess the reasons for which parties have challenges in implementing trade-related provisions under Article 3, and suggest recommendation to the COP, possibly. And then for the ICC to initiate a dialogue with relevant international organizations and compliance bodies of other MEAs on their activities aimed at supporting parties in preventing and combating illegal trade. Next slide, please. Then this is the continuation of the draft decision. The COP may encourage organizations like UNODC, the World Customs Organization, Interpol, and others to assist parties in preventing and combating illegal trade in mercury. Request the Secretariat to provide advice on conduct awareness raising and technical assistance activities to strengthen the capacity of parties to fulfill their trade-related obligations. And finally, further request the Secretariat to report to the COP at its next meeting on the implementation of the decision. To note that there will be a deep dive information session specifically on this matter on supply sources and trade on the 9th of September. Now, this is the second working document that will be considered by COP-6 under this agenda item, and this is document 6/5 add 1 on the study of the global supply, production, trade, and use of mercury compounds. So COP5 in decision MC5/3 requested the Secretariat to initiate such a study. This is in the context of paragraph 13 of Article 3, which provides that the COP shall evaluate whether the trade in specific mercury compounds compromises the objective of the Convention, and consider whether specific mercury compounds should be added in a separate annex so that they are subject to the trade procedure on Article 3, which now only covers elemental mercury. So a draft study was posted on the convention website for review and was finalized, taking into account comments from 11 parties and 3 organizations. The document contains a conclusion, which is that the 6 mercury compounds listed in paragraph 1b of Article 3, as well as others, could be produced and traded for the purpose of circumventing restrictions on trade in elemental mercury. And the full report is set out in Inf 5. This is the text of the draft decision of this document, Add 1. Very simple, the COP may wish to review the study on trade in mercury compounds and consider a decision as appropriate. This matter will also be part of the deep dive information session on supply sources and trade, which will take place on the 9th of September. I will stop here for a moment and see if you have any questions. Okay, moving on, since there's no questions now, I hand over to Isaac. Over to you.
Thank you, Lara. My name is Isaac Toda, and I'm in charge of scientific and technical issues in the Minamata Convention Secretariat, and I'm presenting item 4B, mercury products and mercury using manufacturing processes. And this agenda item contains 4 sub-items, and we have documents for each of these sub-items which I'm going to present now. The next slide is an introductory slide about the provisions of the Article 4 and 5 and Annex A and B regarding the mercury-related products and manufacturing processes using mercury, and also Article 6 providing for the exemptions to phase-out requirements. And COP4 and COP5 amended Annexes A and B, and also COP5 took 3 decisions on Article 4 and 5, and each of these 3 decisions respond to one of the 3 sub-items of under the agenda item 4B. So our next slide starts to explain, to present the document. The first document is 6/6, covering the agenda sub-item 1 on amendments to Annex A. The amendments to be considered is about dental amalgam. COP5 in decision MC 5/4 decided to amend Part 2 of Annex A by adding a provision that parties that have not yet phased out dental amalgam shall submit to the Secretariat a national plan or a report on progress they have made or are making to phase down or phase out dental amalgam every 4 years as part of national reporting. Inf 10 explains the entry into force of this amendment, which is 25th of April this year, for all parties except for one party that made a notification under subparagraph 3B of Article 27, and parties that made a declaration under paragraph 5 of Article 30. COP5, in the same decision, decided to consider the following amendments proposal at COP-6. Firstly, to add dental amalgam to Part 1 of Annex A so that its manufacture, import, and export are phased out by 2030. Secondly, to add a provision in Part 2 of Annex A about the use of dental amalgam in government insurance policies and programs. The proposed text shown here includes a number of square brackets to be considered at the COP. The COP may wish to consider the proposed amendments to Annex A and decide as appropriate. The next slide is about the next sub-item sub-item small Roman 1 cosmetics, and the document is 6/6 at 1. And just a small note about the document coding. The at means addendum, so this is a different document from 6/6. So we have 4 documents for this agenda item. Document 6 and 6 at 1, 6 at 2, and 6 at 3. So the 6 at 1 is about the cosmetics. The document contains information on and the summary of the report on challenges in preventing the manufacture, import, and export of cosmetics listed in Part 1 of Annex A, prepared by the Secretariat pursuant to Decision MC 5/5. In line with that decision, the report addresses topics including phasing out sales and offers of sales of mercury-added cosmetics, strategies for discouraging the marketing, advertising, and display, advisories, detention list, and prohibited substance list, licensing and product ingredient approvals for cosmetics manufacturing facilities, developing and implementing product safety pledges for online platforms, and raising awareness among physicians, dermatologists, beauty center staff, consumers, and family members. The full report is set out in Inf 8. The next slide is continuation of the cosmetics issues. The report was drafted, compiling and synthesizing submissions from 23 parties and 8 organizations in cooperation with WHO and the Global Mercury Partnership. The draft report was posted on the website for review and was finalized, taking into account comments received from 5 parties and 8 organizations. Inf 8 provides the full report on cosmetics listed in Part 1 of Annex A. The report concludes that eliminating mercury-added skin lightening products is a multifaceted challenge that includes addressing regulations, supply chain management, capacity building, and awareness raising. And the report points out challenges such as the lack of national implementing legislation and measures, inadequate enforcement, lack of capacity, lack of awareness, and need for global cooperation. The report also sets out as an annex a document submitted by Gabon entitled Livable Commitment on the Elimination of Mercury-Containing Skin Lightening Cosmetics in Africa, adopted at a high-level regional meeting of African ministers, international experts, and civil society leaders held in Libreville, Gabon, in January this year. The Livable Commitment invites the parties at COP-6 to follow up on the COP-5 decisions on mercury-containing skin cosmetics and to adopt a work program, including a budget, to accelerate their elimination. The COP may wish to consider the final report contained in Inf 8 with a view to adopting a decision as appropriate. The next slide is about the document 6 at 2 for sub-item 3, consideration of feasibility of mercury-free alternatives for manufacturing vinyl chloride monomer, VCM. Part 2 of Annex B to the Convention provides that parties are not to allow the use of mercury in VCM production 5 years after the COP has established that mercury-free catalysts based on existing processes have become technically and economically feasible. Note that Part 2 of Annex B is not a phase out of the manufacturing processes, but it includes this phase out provision after 5 years after the COP decision. A similar provision exists for sodium, potassium, methylate, and ethylates. COP-5 established that mercury-free alternatives is available for this process, and therefore parties are to phase out the use of mercury in that process, the sodium, potassium, methylate, ethylate by 2028. This document contains a report on the technical and economic feasibility of mercury-free catalyst in VCM production, developed pursuant to decision MC 5/6, drawing on the information submitted by 9 parties and 3 organizations. The report concludes that while several submissions highlight the technical and economic feasibility of mercury-free catalysts based on existing processes, others question such feasibility. INF9 is a compilation of information that was submitted. The COP may wish to consider the report by the Secretariat based on the information contained in INF9 and decide as appropriate. The next slide is the last document at 6-3 on sub-item 4, extension of exemptions. This sub-item was added after the provisional agenda was circulated in April this year. Article 6 provides for the exemptions for phase-out dates listed in Annex A and B, products and processes for no more than 5 years. 14 parties have registered exemptions. Article 6, paragraph 6 provides that the COP may, at the request of a party, decide to extend an exemption further for 5 years unless the party requests a shorter period. Pursuant to this provision, on 25th of July this year, the Secretariat received a request from Thailand that COP decide to extend the exemptions for 6 mercury-added products. The request from Thailand was forwarded to the parties on 22nd of August with a letter from the Executive Secretary informing the parties that this will be included in the COP-6 agenda. The provisional agenda was revised as document 6/1 Rev 1. So Rev means revision, so it replaces the former provisional agenda 6/1. In 42 sets out Thailand's request. We have not received any other requests so far, but if we receive any similar request by the 8th of September this year, it will be circulated as an additional information document. This deadline of 8th September is based on the requirement in the COP rules of procedures to have COP documents available to parties 6 weeks in advance of the COP meeting and 2 weeks needed for the Secretariat to process the document. The COP may wish to consider the request for extension with a view to adopting decisions thereon. So this is the last slide about item 5 for item 4B, and I'm looking at whether we have any question in the chat. And since we have none, I think we will move to the next agenda item. But if you have any question, please put it in the chat so that we can respond in the chat as well. So I think I will move on to the next one, mercury waste, item 4D. And note that for item 4C, ASGM will be covered in tomorrow's session. So this slide is an introductory slide explaining the background. Article 11 defines mercury waste, provides that COP shall establish thresholds for defining mercury waste, and sets out the obligations of the parties to manage mercury waste in an environmentally sound manner, taking into account guidelines under the Basel Convention and in accordance with the requirements that the COP shall adopt. As an additional annex, such requirements have not been considered by the COP so far, and we have not received the amendment proposal to add for additional annex. So the COP-6 is not going to consider any specific a new annex, but the COP-6 is considered the documents from the intersessional process agreed at COP-5. So, and in terms of mercury waste thresholds, the COP3, COP4, and COP5 established the mercury waste threshold, and the decision MC5/10 says that the threshold issues will be revisited at COP7. And the same decision also provides for intersessional work related to the requirements of environmentally sound management of mercury waste. The next slide. For item 4D, we have document 6/8 and INF 12. Decision MC5/10 invited parties to submit information regarding waste management regulations and programs as Annex Article 11, Para 3A says that these waste management regulation programs are to be considered in establishing requirements for environmental sound management of mercury waste. The provisions of Article 11, Paragraph 3A is explained in the second and third small bullets in this slide. So information was submitted by 8 parties. Document 6/8 provides an overview of the submitted information. The next slide, please. Document 6/8 also contains other elements on mercury waste. Firstly, it contains information submitted in the past 3 national reports pursuant to Article 21 on facilities for the final disposal of waste consisting of mercury and mercury compounds, one type of mercury waste. I would like to note that the Basel Convention technical guidelines mention stabilizations and solidification as final disposal methods for waste consisting of mercury and mercury compounds. The Implementation Compliance Committee reviewed national reports and information from the Secretariat's follow-up communication and encouraged parties to further elaborate as appropriate on final disposal methods in their second full national reports to be submitted by the 31st of December this year. Secondly, the document mentions that Basel Convention COP-17 decided to update technical guidelines on the environmental sound management of waste consisting of containing or contaminated with mercury or mercury compounds in order to reflect adjustments consequential to the establishment of the threshold for mercury waste by decision MC5/10. INF 12 contains information submitted by parties pursuant to decision MC5/10. So the next slide, and this is the last slide for mercury waste. The COP may wish to consider the draft decision contained in document 6/8 and adopt a decision on mercury waste. That a decision may contain a result of its consideration regarding the development of requirements for environmentally sound management of mercury waste pursuant to paragraph 3A of Article 11, a process to prepare for the review of mercury waste thresholds pursuant to paragraphs 5 to 8 of the decision MC5/10, which says that these matters are to be considered at COP7, and actions in response to the decision of the Conference of the Parties to the Basel Convention to update the technical guidelines, perhaps to cooperate in updating the guidelines. And I stop here for any question. And as I see no questions in the chat, again, I would welcome any questions in writing to which we will respond in writing, and I would hand over to my colleague Richard.
Thank you very much, Eisaku. Good day or good evening to everyone. My name is Richard Gutierrez. I'm the Program Officer for National Reporting. Let me walk you through item 4H, the documents that are covered in item 4H on national reporting. I would like to direct your attention to the left of your screen. You will see 3 documents, 6/15 national reporting, and 2 INF documents in 20 and in 21. I'll be covering these documents during my presentation. I now like to call your attention to the right of your screen. At the top, you will note that this is I'm going to be discussing document 6/15 on national reporting, particularly on the second short national reports. The document contains the following items: the periodic report of the Secretariat for the COP. The second is the update on the intersessional work conducted with reference to the online reporting tool and updating the online reporting tool, as well as the reporting guidance pursuant to Decision 5/13. And if you will recall, Decision 5/13 amended 19 reporting format questions, and part of the work entailed in this is the update of the online reporting tool to reflect such amendments, including the update to the guidance for completing the national report. And that's in 21. We'll cover that more in a little bit. Another item covered under document 6/15 is the timeline for the analysis of the second full national reports in preparation for COP-7. As you will note, the second full national report is quite extensive, and this agenda item talks about the need for preparation and also the prompt submission of the second short national report, second full national reports by its deadline of 31 December 2025. The last item covered in document 6/15 is the draft decision on national reporting for consideration by the COP in light of the parties' responses to the second short reports. You will note below at the bottom of your screen is a pie chart or a chart with that denotes the reporting rate of this, the second short national reports reporting rate as at May 31, 2025. And I'm happy to report that the convention has achieved an 86% reporting rate with 118 parties submitting and 19 who have not yet submitted. Next slide, please. Let me walk you through document in 20, the report on the second short national reports under the Minamata, under Article 21 of the convention. So this document contains the Secretariat's review of the completed and submitted national reports, and the review summarizes the parties' response to the 4 recurring questions. And you see those question numbers in the slide in front of you. More specifically, the report contains information on the following. 1, the reporting performance. 2nd, overview of the results of the second short national reports. And 3rd, findings of the Secretariats based on our review of the 4 questions as it relates to Articles 3.3, 3.5, 3.6, and 11.2, including Part C, challenges faced by the parties in implementing the convention, and Part D, in terms of comments on the improvements of the online reporting tool. I will call your attention again to the bottom of the screen. You will note the regional breakdown of the results, and you will note that of the 2 regions we have, 2 regions having achieved complete submission, and 3 regions showing the numbers that have submitted, and as well as the numbers of parties from that region that have not yet submitted their report. Next slide. On this slide, you will cover in 21, which is the updated guidance for completing the national report. As I mentioned earlier, this is in line with Decision 5/13, where the COP adopted guidance, amended the reporting format, and we have Secretariat has reflected all of the reporting format amendments into the guidance, and these updates are indicated in the underlined text. The updated guidance has been posted on the convention website to support parties in completing the national reporting format for the second full national report. As I mentioned earlier, this is due by 31 December 2025. Now, lastly, at the bottom of your screen again, you will see the breakdown of the results in terms of the distribution of reporting officers, male and female, as of 31 May 2025, with 58 or 52.7% comprising female reporting officers and 47.3% comprising of male reporting officers. I would also like to note before we move to the next slide that in terms of submissions for the second full national reports, the Secretariat has already received 5 submissions. And I'm also very happy to report that 2 of the submissions came from the Africa region, 1 submission came from the Asia Pacific region, and 1 submission came from the GRULAC region, and 1 submission came from the WIOG region. So we'd like to encourage parties to continue their hard work and get those reports in at or before the deadline. Next slide, please. Now I'd like to quickly cover what the suggested action that the COP may wish to take with regard to this subject matter. There are several items that we've outlined. First is to welcome the high rate of reporting. Second is to encourage parties to achieve the high rate of reporting for the second full national reports. Reiterate to parties that have received consent to export mercury to parties and or non-parties to provide to the Secretariat copies of the consent forms or other suitable information. Take note of the updates to the guidance for completing the national reporting format and encourage parties to use the guidance in the current and next reporting rounds. For the Secretariat, there's a couple of draft requests that the COP may wish to take note or take action on. First request of the Secretariat is to collect information on best practices for reporting on informal or illegal activities with a view to identifying information that would help assess the scale and nature of the issue. Second, to continue evaluating any issues that may arise from the reporting format and to develop proposals for enhancing its ease of use. And lastly, we do note that any decisions that are taken by the COP or adopted by the COP should be integrated into the guidance for completing the national report. I end there and I pause if there are any specific questions on the documents prepared for agenda item 4H. I see no questions. I would hand back the microphone or the floor to Lara.
Thank you, Richard. So moving on to agenda item 4G on Implementation Compliance Committee, the working document to be considered under this agenda item is document 6/14, report on the work of the Implementation Compliance Committee, including recommendations. The committee met twice during the intersessional period, once online in September last year, and then once in person in February this year. The reports of both meetings are available in the INF 19. The meetings were chaired by Annick Baudouin from Canada, and Musa Kuzumidan Gunila from Tanzania acted as vice chair and rapporteur for both meetings. The committee adopted a decision regarding a written submission from Mexico with respect to its own compliance with paragraph 2 of Article 5 and Part 1 on Annex B to the Convention. This is the first time the ICC adopts a decision based on a written submission by a party on its own compliance. Then the meeting also considered issues based on the Secretariat's report, on the second short national report submitted by parties in accordance with Article 21, and agreed on conclusions relating to reporting performance, primary mercury mining, stocks and sources, mercury trade, and mercury wastes, and also agreed on one recommendation to COP-6 on primary mercury mining. And all these are listed in the annex to document 614. I move on to the next slide, as I don't see any questions. on this agenda item specifically. On item 3, rules of procedure, the relevant working documents is document 6/3, rules of procedure for the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention Mercury, consideration of Rule 45. COP1 adopted the rules of procedure for the COP, but with brackets in Rule 45. This relates to voting procedure for matters of substance and to the mechanism to decide whether matters should be considered of substance or procedure. COP5 agreed to defer to COP6 further consideration of the bracketed text, like done by previous COPs before COP5. The COP is again invited to decide whether to remove the brackets in Rule 45 or defer the decision to COP7. Next slide, please. Under the same agenda item, the working document 6/4 on financial rules for the Conference of the Parties, its subsidiary bodies and the Secretariat of the Convention. Again, COP1 adopted the financial rules, but with brackets around certain parts of its text. And COP5, like previous COPs, deferred consideration of the bracketed text to the next COP. In this case, COP6 may wish to consider and agree on the outstanding issues pertaining to Rule 5 of the financial rules and the annex to the rules and adopt a decision. You can see here the specific paragraphs listed. I don't see any questions for me on this specific agenda item, and therefore I hand over to Brenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lara, and thank you, colleagues. This concludes our briefing on the substantive items we were to raise today. And I note there were some exchanges in the chat, which we welcome. So I hope we've been able to answer all the questions. I'm just going to close out for these last few minutes today on the sessions ahead of us and other matters for us to consider as we lead into COP6. So particularly, I just want to highlight here in this slide that we have 4 more sessions ahead of us in this series of Minamata Online. So tomorrow's session is considered a part 2 of this session. And as I close out, I will remind you of the list of agenda items we will cover tomorrow. In 2 weeks, we will have 2 back-to-back sessions on the 9th and 10th of September. So on the 9th of September, we will do what we call a deep dive session on Mercury supply sources and trade. So we will go into more detail in addition to what Lara has presented us today. And on the 10th of September, we will have a specific session on artisanal and small-scale gold mining. So that topic will be introduced in tomorrow's session, and we will continue on with a deep dive on the 10th of September. Finally, the 5th Minamata Online in the series we have is on September 30th, which is an information session on the program of work and budget for 2026-2027. And this will be an event for parties only. Okay, so please save the dates, go to the link and make sure you register. Now, just to close out, I want to highlight a few more things. We want to give you an overview of Sunday, the 2nd of November. Just to let you know, there will be a bureau meeting from 10 till 1 on Sunday. There will also be a special secretariat briefing. And in this case, the focus will be on the financial mechanism from 1 till 2:30 on Sunday, November 2nd, of course, by the traditional regional meetings preparing for the session on the Monday. We want to also highlight a couple of special events. So on Sunday, just go back to the previous slide, please. There's special events on Sunday, November 2nd, which will be in the evening from 5:30 to 8 o'clock, which will be open to the public. And it will be, the focus will be from science to action, protecting the Amazon from mercury pollution. So a very interesting session, followed by Monday in the lunch period from 1:15 to 2:30. There will be a Secretariat organized event with high-level participation. And the theme will be driving effective and inclusive implementation of the Minamata Convention. And finally, I just want to highlight on the next slide that we do have pre-COP-6 online events week, which will take place the week of October 13th, and other opportunities for parties and observers to engage in the process. So there'll be knowledge lab sessions as well as exhibition booths. And the call for proposals was sent out earlier, as you're aware, and the deadline has since closed. So you'll be updated on these items, on the selection and the schedule of these items in due course. And those who have been successful in seeking a side event at the online events week will be informed this week. So please expect that. Now, just to close up, and I want to just go through tomorrow's briefing one more time. So it's on your screen here. This session and tomorrow's session will be posted online together. And so we look forward to working with you for a successful COP. I note that we had about 110 participants today, so this is great participation. Want to thank all of you, thank all of our 152 parties for joining, for being part of this journey towards COP-6. And we look forward to finishing the second piece of the briefing tomorrow. So thank you very much. I don't see any other questions in the chat, so I think we can close at this point. Thank you.